As the prophet of esports, I rely on trustworthy and meaningful data every day. Data from our research partner YouGov offers the most complete view of esports fans and gamers in the world, providing context to who they are, what they think, the brands they buy, and things they do. YouGov's connected insights and research services inform strategy at every level. If you're a team, a brand, agency, or rights holder, you should be talking with YouGov. Their partners measure and maximize ROI and are telling compelling stories with data. Visit yougov.com/gaming-esports to learn more. Let's talk about Call of Duty League, because I think it's been a while since we've probably talked about Call of Duty League, or any of the Activision Blizzard leagues for that matter. And Call of Duty League in the news here. The headline, Kraft Sports Group reportedly buying Call of Duty League's 12th team for Boston. So according to the new report, New England Patriots Kraft Sports Group acquiring the 12th CDL team slot from OpTic and Envy, because when OpTic and Envy merged, that slot opened up. And this is the Kraft Sports Group in conjunction. They're going to partner with Oxygen Esports, who's going to manage both the new CDL team and the existing Overwatch League team, the Uprising. So Kraft Sports Group is going to have now, they had been invested in the Overwatch League team, and now they are buying a Call of Duty League franchise. I'm curious what you guys think of this. Is this, is this the sunk cost fallacy? Is this them, pouring more money onto the fire? Or is this genius because they already have a franchise in Boston and this was a great opportunity? Jimmy, let's start with you on this one. I'm curious what you think.
Yikes. Definitely don't think it's genius. It's kind of mind-boggling, honestly. You see we're talking about like a failed Overwatch, everything. I don't even know how to describe Overwatch other than that. And then to just double down, I suppose maybe they just saw a lot more promise in Call of Duty. Maybe there was really awesome discounts and cutbacks in deal terms offered on the second round. It's hard to say what would lead someone to do this. The smartest thing about this article is that it's being managed by Oxygen Esports, because if you don't know what you're doing, like, bring someone in that maybe does. And I thought that was enlightened. But I'm a fan of COD Mobile, but I'm not a fan of this team ownership angle, or at least these franchise spots. At least not for Activision Blizzard, because they're just too expensive. And one of their hard sells, if you guys remember, one of Bobby's hard sells here was a split of all the sponsorship revenue. And last I checked, the sponsors were leaving left and right. So I don't, and any of the new sponsors are probably going to be negotiating for a much more competitive rates and deal terms. So I don't know what's appealing about owning a Call of Duty League for Robert Kraft. Other than to Paul's point, maybe it's kind of like when you buy a stock and it tanks, and then you just buy more because you can say, hey, it's a fire sale. I can average out my loss over the two of them.
Let me just get that out there for all the Robinhood traders. Okay, I don't know where you guys learned finance. Averaging down is not a good strategy. Okay, if the stock's tanking, get out. Don't averaging down, not the way to go. Jeff,
and
I don't know.
Probably a disclaimer here that we're not offering
not
that
financial
type of advice.
Yeah.
Not financial advice. So personal opinion
so
only.
Lot to unpack here. First of all, congratulations to everyone involved. Obviously, we're very familiar with Oxygen. Clearly, I think it's worth noting William, the professor, is clearly a co-founder of Oxygen. So congrats to William when he listens to this. Also the Vandervelds, who are friends of mine and colleagues. So that's awesome for them. I think it's a big deal, for the Boston space and for sort of our friends at esports. That's great. I think Jimmy made a great point. Bringing in a team like Oxygen, people that are esports experts, kind of live and breathe this, is a smart move by the Crafts. So I think they kind of got into the Call of Duty League, Overwatch League, a little bit sort of on Bobby's word. And I don't want to say got swindled, but they were they were very early adopters, and maybe were sold a promise by Bobby that didn't really come to fruition. And I don't know that they ever built the infrastructure really to manage that. They're used to managing traditional sports teams. So bring in Oxygen, smart move, build some scale. Oxygen has, 7 or 8 other teams where there can be shared infrastructure, stuff like that. This is a strategy we've talked a lot about with esports teams being the smart move. I also think they kind of have now staked the claim of kind of owning the Boston area to some extent. Maybe Jimmy, you'll disagree with that. With I believe XSET is up there as well, but they kind of have a claim in the Boston market. And then the last thing I would say, the purchase price for the Call of Duty League team obviously was not disclosed. I don't have any knowledge, but I do think if you're just thinking about this logically from a business perspective, if you were going to be buying a Call of Duty League team, now is probably a decent time to buy one, given the negotiating power you might have versus, a few years ago. So depending on what they paid, this could in a year or two look like a pretty decent steal. If I paint a bullish picture where Overwatch 2 comes out, the Overwatch League kind of like starts to pick up a little bit or even at all, and then Call of Duty, gets back on its feet. And if you got the slot for like a few $1 million, I think this could end up looking like a steal when you combine it with some of those other assets. So I think that's a little bit of the case I think that they're going at.
Assuming that they negotiated recently, of course, because this could have been done and locked in and just recently announced. But I agree with everything else.
Let me just read some of the comments here. Trent says, "Is this Oxygen?" Yes, Trent, it is. They're the ones who are going to be managing. Trent says the CDL's walking all over their consumers. I'm curious, Trent, what you mean by that. Like, I would love for you to be more specific there, because in some ways I agree, but I'm curious what you're thinking of specifically. Greg says, was there a price announced for the CDL acquisition? Most definitely not, Greg, because I have a funny feeling this was fire sale central. I mean, this is sort of it's not even a hot take. It's just my regular take on this. If it's discounted steeply enough, people will buy garbage, right? Like if you put something on sale enough, that people will buy just about anything. And so I wouldn't be surprised if there wasn't even any cash up front for this, that they just needed to save face. They needed a good piece of news. With OpTic and Envy merging, they lost a slot, and an odd number of teams makes for weird kind of tournaments. And so, they needed to fill that fast. And of the people in the room, the Krafts have deep pockets and already were in the Activision Blizzard family. I have a funny feeling this was sort of a favor amongst friends. This was not. I doubt they paid anything up front. I'm sure over time there's going to be some payments, but if I had to guess, that there was nothing up front or very, very little. Chris says Morgan Stanley strikes again. Hand crank Kraft had to have bought at a significant discount. No way he spent $25 million. Yeah, I agree. I mean, they only raised $20 million, right? Which was, at one point they were saying Call of Duty League slots were going for $20 million or $30 million or whatever. So if you think the total amount raised in this transaction was only 20, I doubt they would have spent more than, a few $1 million of that on the slot itself, given the cost, the cash burn of an esports team. Greg says agree. Chris says better investment, Boston market chicken franchise or Boston market esports team. Time will tell.
Give me a Chick-fil-A in Boston, and that probably could be worth it. Those things are gold mines. That's not even saying anything about the esports investment. This is great. Chick-fil-A, man.
Seriously though, this is a good question, right? Because I think we're universally kind of down on buying a Call of Duty League slot, with the asterisk being depends what they paid, right? Although you're still going to be burning cash, so it's not like it's a profitable business, not at least now, maybe 10 years from now. But there is the argument, and Jeff, I've heard you make this argument, which is, eventually all these teams are going to be like football teams, and the value of the asset goes up over time. So they don't really need to be money making businesses, right? They can be money losing businesses, but still be worth hundreds of millions of dollars like 100 Thieves, or billions of dollars like FaZe or whatever. And so this question's a good one in that, yeah, the Boston Market chicken franchise probably is profitable for the next 20 years, right? Because no one's going to stop eating chicken. But is there a play where long term, did Kraft and Oxygen look at the 100 Thieves round and go, well, we could be worth 460 million too, right? We just need the same. We need to be in the same 7 or 8 games, and we'll be fine. Do you guys buy that argument?
I'm
Jeff?
not sure I buy that argument. I think if we start to see, I mean, I know you attributed to me, so maybe I should buy it. I think the last part I didn't necessarily agree with, because I do think that, like 100 Thieves and FaZe have brands outside of the league. I think I buy the first part of the argument that you attributed to me. If the leagues start generating, more eyeballs, more streaming rights sales, then and the economic splits maybe get a little better for the owners, then I think it could get to a point where like you don't necessarily need a brand. And the way I would attribute it is, I'd say like the Jacksonville Jaguars have no brand, like literally at all. But because they're in the NFL, they're worth probably about $1 billion, right? And like nobody is a Jaguars fan, like literally on earth. But because they're part of that league and they have one of those 32 franchises, they are worth $1 billion. You could see that in esports if the leagues start taking off more. But in terms of being a standalone brand, like, no, I do not think Oxygen has the same, at this point, standalone cachet or brand as a FaZe or 100 Thieves. No, that's not controversial to say.
Trent says the CDL is so turbulent, the angry fans burning their Huntsman, Empire, etc. merch that they wasted hundreds of dollars on. That's actually a very good point. I didn't even think about that. I guess that's what they're going to do with all that wasted merch. It ends up at your local Goodwill to buy for pennies on the dollar. Yeah, I mean, that's the Activision Blizzard model. It's why I have so many shirts. You just wait till they go on sale for $2.80. Chris says, I'm just here to make Jimmy break. Almost got him.
Yeah, that was close.
It's tough to make Jimmy break. Chris says, so much for Byron Leftwich starting an esports team, Jeff.
Hey, you leave Byron Leftwich out of this.
Yeah, he's the offensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Bucks. Now that is a real franchise with some fans.
Also, my brother was his former personal trainer. So
nice.
Oh, interesting. Didn't know that.
Trent says the problem is we all know there's no underdog story within the CDL. All the teams are being artificially propped up.
Yep.
Yeah. Look, here's the problem, guys, and I'll wrap on this and we'll move on. What other choice does an Oxygen have, right? I'll make this. I won't pick on Oxygen. I'll make this sort of generalized to any tier 3 org, let's call it, right? Where it's like you're not a T1 org, you're probably not a tier 2 org even. You're sort of an also ran tier 3 org. What do? You don't have many options, right? You either need to get bought by a bigger org, or you need to go for the big franchise slot. And regardless of whether it's a good long-term business decision or not, we can debate that. We can debate if it's good for the shareholders of that business, because it may not be. But what choice do you have to grow? Because I don't think there's any growth in that sort of tier 3 band, right? Like no one's watching the also ran, Rocket League team from Lithuania, right? Like no one cares about that. And so in some ways, I think this is the only move they had. And I applaud sort of what is a bold move for an org that is relatively unknown, right? They're not a FaZe or 100 Thieves or whatever, or an Envy, or and I think it puts them in a new category. But there's still, in my mind, big question marks about the viability of the business here, buying into especially Activision Blizzard leagues. But time will tell. Time will tell. Chris says, for the record, this is great for Professor and Adam Morrison. Happy as hell for the OG esports people tied to the deal. Yeah, I agree, Chris. Great people involved on the Oxygen side, all friends of ours, obviously, and are super happy for them. But we're still going to debate the business implications of everything friends or not, and we'll always try and be as transparent about it. Trent says, the fear is that Blizzard strikes down any tournaments that non-licensed tournament operators are hosting, which forces teams to go for a franchise spot. Well, I mean, Trent, obviously, right? Because they want those fees. They want the franchise fees. For Blizzard, it works. For Activision Blizzard, it works. But I agree. As an owner, I would be concerned.